Hello there, everybody. This is Mel Allen. Let us pontificate all of baseball's glory, 'cause it's time to preach pennant. Let us picture good and bad in an unholy war for last rites, a crusade that ends with a fall from grace, evoking a new cardinal commandment. The tools of ignorance shelter a deacon of the diamond, a patriarch who receives a new collar, ordaining him king for enduring baptism under fire. Forced to bear the burdens of paradise lost, men of the robe avert Holocaust, chorusing in a triumph made in heaven. And the Bishop of Latin Broadcasters preaches a fiery sermon worthy of the highest praise, despite some unusual habits. So hallelujah, y'all, on This Week in Baseball. Now in our second decade.
Hello, my name is George Plimpton. You might be interested to know that Sid Finch got a hold of me the other day, the great Met 168-mile-an-hour fastball pitcher, and what he watches every week is This Week in Baseball. That's what he said.
National League Roundup, on to New York for Cardinal Cat Call. Like they say, while the cat's away, the white rats play. But in New York last weekend, some cats were hoping for the Cardinals to bid a fond farewell to first place. And Whitey Herzog's fleet-footed Redbirds were running in just that direction.
Here's a long one into right, and bye-bye. The Mets lead it 3-0.
The Big Apple went wild, as did Mookie Wilson.
Into left field, Coleman going back, and it is out of here.
New York would continue to traumatize the Cardinals with outstanding defensive plays. Keith Hernandez, how about that? And the Cardinal pickoff by New York starter Ron Darling. Darling had pitched a no-hitter for 5 1/3 innings, but on this play injured his thumb. A valiant but costly effort by Ron, whom the Mets subsequently lost for the season with a thumb injury. With Whitey Herzog's club behind in the top of the ninth, New York picked reliever Roger McDowell to close the door. Score 4-2 Mets. The Cardinals' last hope, Terry Pendleton.
Pendleton hits the long one into center field. Get out of here. Wilson going back. It is out of here, and it's tied up at 4-4. Terry Pendleton.
St. Louis would forge ahead with 2 runs in the top of the 10th to capture a wild win and hand New York a devastating defeat. In Game 2, New York's shot at redemption turned to further embarrassment as Dwight Gooden surrendered 6 runs in only 2 innings. That was the shortest pitching performance of his career. St. Louis, meanwhile, scored 8 runs, and they took 2 out of 3, a series win that confirmed that Whitey's club wouldn't surrender. Now to the curious tale of a most unusual pitcher, Sid Finch. Sid Finch is the type of pitcher who exists only in the minds of men. Now, if you recall, Sid was the creation of one man in particular, writer George Plimpton, renowned for living out his sports fantasies and writing about them. He's been an NFL quarterback, an NHL goaltender, but his first love has always been baseball. So George decided to apply his active imagination to 1985's April 1st edition of Sports Illustrated, sort of an April Fool's gag. The result, an oddball pitcher who threw a 168-mile-per-hour fastball. Sounds unbelievable, but Sid seemed to blend in so realistically that readers believed.
I didn't believe anybody was going to fall for this at all. I mean, after all, the guy had all these weird, idiosyncratic behaviors. He would pitch with one shoe off and one shoe on, play a French horn. He was the Tibetan trained monk, all these things. I think the reason people were fooled by this was that the New York Mets allowed a photographer to come down there and take pictures of this mysterious figure with the real Mets, so that you saw this sort of gawky, tall fellow standing around with Mel Stottlemyre talking to him. And there it was in Sports Illustrated, which is supposed to be to deal with the truth. And so I think that was part of it. People fell for that. because of how it was presented, and also the Mets all went along with this thing. You know, they'd say, "Are you looking for Finch? He's out that way." I mean, they talked about him as if he were a real person. That was terribly convincing to a reporter from, you know, the St. Petersburg Times or whatever.
Currently, Sid Finch is in retirement. Question is, will the Buddhist pitcher ever boot up again? Is he in any kind of shape to make a comeback?
Oh, yeah, he could come back, and particularly if the Cardinals were ahead by, you know, 2.5 games with maybe a couple of weeks to go.
Personally, I think they ought to leave Sid alone. He's happy where he is. And now, let's open the notebook for This Week in Baseball's Twib Notes from around the National League. Keith Hernandez of the Mets attained a personal milestone when he collected base hit number 2,000. He did it against the Cubs, going 3 for 5. And for Keith, a tip of the cap. Chili Davis set a National League record when in the same game he hit a pair of homers from both sides of the plate. The second time this season Davis has belted switch-hit homers, and the third time in his career. Real hot, Mr. Chili. And now this week's quiz, brought to you by the 1988 Chevy full-size pickup. From the heartbeat of America, today's Chevy trucks. Vince Coleman of the Cardinals recently stole base number 100, making him the only player to ever steal 100 or more bases his first 3 seasons. Hey, that's some kind of production. But for this week's quiz, can you name the player who's been thrown out the most times in one season? Stay tuned for a former Bay Area burglar. American League point of view. On to those blasting Blue Jays. Exhibition Stadium, the site of some powerful bursts of late. When Rickey Henderson and the Yankees came to town, Toronto was resolved to mow them down. In Game 1, scored tied in the 10th, Ernie Whitt discharged the game-winning hit.
Base hit, this could be the ball game. Here's Whitfield. He is thrown to the plate, and it is not time. The ball game is over.
I just enjoy hitting with men on base. I guess that's the big thing, and I think most hitters enjoy hitting with men on base. Some can adjust to it well, some fold under the pressure. I don't know, I go up there in situations like that. I just try to tell myself that the pitcher's under more pressure than I am, and just try to do the best I can.
Whitt was once again at his best the next day. 2 home runs and a 13-1 demolition. The Jays also pounded out 3 consecutive home runs, but that was only a warm-up for their series opener against the Jays really went wild. Toronto tallied a Major League home run record. Ernie Whitt hit 3. George Bell belted 2. There were also 3 solo homers. And Rance Mullenix cracked 2. A record total of 10 Blue Jay homers in an 18-3 laugher. For the Orioles, a sad note for Cal Ripken, whose consecutive innings streak was halted at 8,243.
Taking a quote from Dale Murphy, he told me when he ended his streak, he said, look, 700 games ago or 800 games ago, he didn't intend to set out to do this. And that's my feelings exactly. I've been lucky to stay away from the injuries, and I just play each game, and I mean, I have fun doing it.
Made of iron. And now to profile another Iron Man, California's Bob Boone. Bob Boone has always captured the respect of baseball fans for his rock-steady performance behind the plate. Recently, Boone surpassed Al Lopez to establish an all-time record for games caught.
You grind as hard as you can day in and day out, and I think if anything that gives me satisfaction, and I've had a lot of disappointments in my baseball career, it's the fact that every inning and every out that I've gone out there to win and to do it as hard as I possibly could.
Boone began his career in 1972 with the Phillies, but number 8 played third base in the minors, the same position his father, Ray Boone, played. And oddly enough, Ray started out as a catcher, and for Bob Boone, catching was also a second choice.
Catching was never anything I wanted to do. I owe that to Paul Owens and the Phillies who made the suggestion. I guess I always felt that I would end up a catcher. Of course, we had a pretty good third baseman coming up at the same time, and Mike Schmidt. And that sort of made the move for me, if I wanted to stay with the Phillies, inevitable. And as it turned out, it was the best thing that ever happened to me in my baseball life.
Boone made it to the World Series in 1980, where he batted .412 and contributed heavily to Philadelphia's World Series triumph. But perhaps the most memorable defensive play he was involved in occurred in Game 6 on a foul pop.
Boone, Rose, they'll have a play. Boone dropped it and Rose caught it.
If you look where that ball is, I went twice as far as Pete went, and I'm looking for him to call me off, and I don't hear anything, and I'm about ready to fall in the dugout, and I just said, well, I got to go for this ball. It shouldn't be mine, but where's Pete? And the ball popped out of my glove, and there's Pete.
After a long and successful stint with the Phils that included 4 divisional titles and several All-Star appearances, Boone was sold to the California Angels, a move that has made his twilight years a reinvigorating experience.
I'd been with the Phillies for 12 years. I'd signed with them, and just making the change gave me that, I felt like a rookie coming to camp in '82.
And 6 seasons later, Boone is still with the Angels, serving as a positive influence with his guidance and incredible durability.
Taking young guys and maturing them into major league pitchers rather than throwers, and I think that his consistency goes a long way towards that goal that he's reached passing Al Lopez.
That's quite a feat, considering he's had 3 or 4 knee operations and playing a position where it's tough on your knees, and to play more games behind there than any other player is just beyond my belief.
Boone has endured the pounding of 16 long years in the majors and is now enjoying the sweet taste of success as the man who's caught more games than anyone in history.
It takes an awful lot of endurance to do what I've done. I guess if there's anything in my lifetime that I knew I was good at, it's enduring.
Viva Senor Bob Boone, and viva Warner Fusselle, who's rounding up his notes for this week's Fusselle File, Latino style.
Alto vuela la emoción y se extiende como nada un fluido que como bala ha mejorado la acción.
The voice is recognized in Venezuela, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Mexico, and the United States.
Así va el béisbol.
The voice belongs to Juan Vene, baseball's #1 Spanish broadcaster, and the host of some shows of which you may have heard.
The most important for me is This Week in Baseball, Lo Mejor de la Semana, because I have been for 11 years with this show. Then the Pen and Chase, in Spanish is Así va el béisbol. And in radio, I have a program in the morning, 7:15 every morning, about baseball. They call it Juan Vene desde donde esté. It's Juan Vene from everywhere.
There's also baseball play-by-play, a book, and a daily newspaper column that Juan has written for 40 years. With a workload like this, it certainly helps to have a sense of humor.
When I was 15 years old, I was a comedian in the theater, and I have to do a lot of things. I think the people need laughing. We have a lot of trouble, and if you can do something with humor that the people can love, everybody appreciates this.
Even when Juan looks serious, you can expect the unexpected.
Hoy, en Los Mejor de la Semana.
Juan Vene.
Salud amigos, ¿qué tal fanáticos? El deporte vuelve a unirnos.
Hoy, en Lo Mejor de la Semana.
Juan Vene.
Hoy en Lo Mejor de la Semana.
Juan Vene.
The sounds of success are always sweet, whether behind a mic or behind a bat.
Yo he vivido soportando el martirio. Tanta quititaquitaquiturati.
The laughs just keep on coming. Juan Vene, also a connoisseur of fine food, recently did an expose on food at the ballpark, and he really got involved.
En el béisbol, la gente come algo, como estas cosas. No.
El béisbol y los perros calientes están unidos. Hot dog and baseball is together all the time.
In the winter, Juan cleans up his act and returns home to Caracas, Venezuela, where he has a batting tunnel, pitching machine, and his own clubhouse in his backyard. All around, Juan Vene is known, and he's seen and heard in the U.S. on 500 radio and TV stations and cable affiliates. And Mel Juan Vene even has his version of Going, Going, Gone.
Se va, se va, se va, y sí, señor. How about that?
Senor Vene, ole. Okay, amigos, it's time now to answer this week's quiz. The man who's been thrown out more times than any other player in one season, Rickey Henderson. While Henderson holds the all-time record for stolen bases in the season with 130, he's also been thrown out more times in one season than any other player, 42. Rickey achieved both feats for the Oakland A's back in 1982.
When his stomach balks, Davy Johnson reaches for serious medicine. Rolaids consumes all the acid required to bring millions 100% relief, and relief is needed on days like these.
I should have gone into golf.
Get serious relief. Get Rolaids.
Here's this week's Rolaids Relief Man update. In the National League, the Phillies' Steve Bedrosian. In the American League, it's the Yankees' Dave Righetti, followed by the Twins' Jeff Reardon.
They say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. But that guy's just flat out ugly.
Well, hi, this is Mark Eichhorn. Join me after the game on Extra Innings.
Well, blows me down.
Oh, man, I've never seen more nonsense in my life. Let's stick to playing baseball. He can't even do that right. Come on, boys. Get a grip on yourself. I really wish you guys would wise up and get smart.
All right, Siegfried, we've got you completely surrounded by the entire 4th Cavalry. Would you believe the 3rd Cavalry? How about 3 Boy Scouts on roller skates?
Get out of here. I'm getting tired of all these impersonations, if that's what they are. Who's he supposed to be, the Fertile Crescent? And these guys must be impersonating major leaguers. Uh-oh, hope the Pope isn't watching. It's time for us now to make a new proposal. What do you say we engage in unraveling some priceless plays? First, Detroit's Alan Trammell to Lou Whitaker. Next, New York's Keith Hernandez to Ron Darling. The stab by Kansas City's Kevin Seitzer. Now on the gun. Bob Brower, Rangers. Toronto's Tony Fernandez. Watch his legwork. Once again, New York's Rafael Santana from another area code. Baseball fans have been talking about a lively ball all season long, so I suspect it's high time we get to the bottom of this. An engaging thought. Congratulations, honey. Now to a gem of a throw by Detroit's Kirk Gibson to nail Spike Owen. Spike was a little dissatisfied with the call, so Kirk decided to do an encore. And same results. Back to our bride-to-be. Or is that bride-to-be? Now this week in baseball's Flashback, brought to you by Old Spice deodorant and antiperspirant. Switch to the long-lasting protection of Old Spice. April 7th, 1977. More than 44,000 braved sub-zero temperatures and snow flurries to witness the Blue Jays' very first home opener. The Jays banded together to play the Chicago White Sox in the type of climate that was more conducive to winter sports than baseball.
Everybody heard about Toronto being, right south of the North Pole, and it's going to be a foot of snow every day. And when we got there, naturally, the weather didn't disappoint us, and it snowed.
How could you, in retrospect, choreograph anything better than to have snow?
I mean, you think about it. I mean, everyone thinks it snows up here, so why not have snow?
The ball was white and the field was almost completely white, and I was really wondering what was going to happen when the first ground ball went out there, if they were going to pick up a snowball or pick up the baseball.
As players frolicked through the snow in preparation for Toronto's first Major League game, the storm continued, the temperature plummeted. Of course, the Blue Jays were anxious to give their fans something to cheer about. And then Canada's flag finally unfurled after 2 strikeouts in their half of the first because the next batter, Doug Alt, heard the heat.
They're booing, they're wanting a hit, they're wanting something to happen. And so I step up to the plate, and the first pitch I take for a strike. And then they really start booing. I mean, you know, they're thinking, oh, 3 strikeouts in a row. I'm thinking, oh, I got to swing the bat. You know, I got to do something. Well, the next pitch I hit for a home run. And I've never seen the mood of any fans change like it did at that time, from boos to just total cheering.
Brett deals, hard hit ball, power alley, left center field, home run! Doug Alt hits the first homer in Blue Jay history and will score the first run.
But Doug discovered that being an instant celebrity isn't all that it's cracked up to be. So what happened, Doug?
A dealership wanted to give me a car. I said, well, fine, you know, to use for the season. Great, 280Z, great. Little did I know, they plastered my name, or the Blue Jays, on the side of it. Well, I couldn't go anywhere. Naturally, then, you know. That was the biggest mistake I've ever made in baseball.
How about that? Well, Toronto's stormy berth into the majors ended with a victory. And that's all for now, folks. See you again next week on This Week in Baseball.
Brought to you by Rolaids, the antacid that millions rely on. Use only as directed.